And the little red record icon says that we're on. So, hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. My name is Ian Daniel. I am the head of Department Labor Studies, and I want to welcome you to this one-on-one on labor studies. So, the first thing we'd like to do is to show you a little bit of what labor studies is about. I'll run a short PowerPoint presentation, and after that, I'll take your questions. So let's share the screen. And here we go. Like I said, welcome to labor studies. So what do we do in labor studies? Labor studies really is divided up into two fields. They're interrelated, but they can be separated. The first field is industrial relations. That's specialty concentration on industrial relations. And we have three products, three programs in that area. The first is a 40-hour introductory program to labor studies, what we call 10 Saturdays program. The second is a certificate in industrial relations. And the third is a diploma in industrial relations. And the three of them represent a kind of hierarchy in relation to the depth of understanding of industrial relations. The 40-hour introductory program is just that, an introduction. So anyone walking off the street can get in and get a really robust understanding of the practice of industrial relations in Trinidad and Tobago. The second level, of course, is the certificate in industrial relations, and it assumes, well, you might have gotten your feet wet in the 40-hour program, or you really don't have any real background in industrial relations, and you're considering getting into the field. So this certificate program is a one-year program, 3 subjects per semester, that will get you ready to hit the ground running in the field of industrial relations. The third is the Diploma in Industrial Relations, and this one is kind of like a postgraduate program. It assumes that people have certification, tertiary level certification, and or considerable years of practice in the field, but they want to become a little more certified in the area, a little more systematic in their practice. They want to be exposed to the most current developments in industrial relations. And so those are the ones who do the diploma in IR. The other two programs that we have, they're in labor studies. And labor studies is a kind of larger umbrella that contains industrial relations, but will deliver a whole host of other areas. And I will explain some of those areas as we go along. So we have the associate degree in labor studies, which is a 2-year full-time program. And well, most people consider it to be like half of a bachelor degree, but the associate degree is actually a terminal certification that allows you to practice in the field of industrial relations. So, you know, there really is no need to go beyond that if you don't want to, or you can then branch off from the associate degree into other areas. Then you have the Bachelor of Arts degree, which is the full degree in all of the labor studies areas, including industrial relations. And what I'm trying to demonstrate in this slide here is the nested approach that we've taken to the design of our programs. So at the lowest level, you have the 40-hour industrial relations program or our 10 Saturday program, which we are delivering increasingly in different formats. So right now we are delivering it in online over 5 weeks with 2 sessions per week. And so you can actually modify how you do that program. A lot of people still like coming every Saturday for 10 Saturdays and doing it that way. It's not actually a part of the larger chain, but it will give you access, that 40-hour program will give you access to the certificate in industrial relations. As we said, the certificate is like the entry level for practitioners in industrial relations. Now, that certificate in industrial relations is contained within the associate degree wholly. So if you come and you do the certificate, what you will have accomplished is that you will have done literally half of the associate degree. And so it will take you just about a year of additional work to earn the associate degree in labor studies. And just as the lower level demonstrated, the entirety of the Associate of Arts degree in labor studies is actually nested within the Bachelor of Arts degree. So if you like, you can start with the certificate, take a rest, come back in, go up to the associate degree, take a rest again, and then come back in and just finish it off in an additional probably year and a half to get the bachelor degree. Now, the only standalone program is the Diploma in Industrial Relations. That's out to the side. That is for, as we said, people who are already in the field, and we have people coming from HR practice to do that. We have people coming from law to do that. And we have, of course, our normal stakeholder cohort, our trade unionists who send their shop stewards and their IROs, and sometimes the executives of trade unions themselves. They come and sit in that class. That class is that program is a particularly powerful program, as exhibited by the fact that we are actually pulling management into this program. And the reason that is happening is because the trade unionists literally wipe the floor with them in the industrial court. And so there's a recognition among the professional ranks that this is information they have to know. If this is the information that trade unionists are using, then this is the information that management must know. And that's great because it means that everyone will be not only on an equal footing, but will have the same consensual understanding of what industrial relations is. All right, so why IR and why labor studies? Well, the easy answer is work. Work is going to dominate your life. If you're at the age of about 40, you will have been now in work longer than you will have been in anything else in your life. You've already passed the years of school. And now you have 20 more years to go while in the institution of work. So work is central to our lives. And so we need to learn what affects work. So what are some of the things that will affect work? Economics. What's the state of the economy in the country today? These days, you can't even limit it to the country because what's happening outside of the country can affect the country. So what's happening in the world of economics today? And how is that coming down the pipeline through all of the connections of globalization and affecting the form and shape, the nature of work? What else do you want to know? You want to know about politics, how politics affects work. So you want to know how government policy will affect both the economy and, as a consequence, work. You want to know about, well, there are things outside of economics and politics that can hit pretty hard, like, for instance, a public health crisis. And that's what we're going through right now. A public health crisis, especially if it is pitched at a global level, at a Black Plague level, can actually bring the global economy to a standstill, as has happened recently. Technology can affect work. When I first started working, that was when the first computers were really making their presence felt in the workplace, and people were scared. People thought we are going to lose our jobs to the computer. And the truth is, many people did lose their jobs as a consequence of the introduction of that particular type of technology. But the technology also created new forms of work. And so you got this large area of information technology that has given rise to a whole new category of professionals. So technology is pretty interesting in how it affects work. And then, of course, you have the media influence. How does the media portray the economy? How does the media portray the politics? How does the media portray trade unionists and their actions and their demands? All of that affects the outcome of the work relationship. And then, of course, you have the law or the legal framework. How does law guide the relationships between employer and employee? How does it regulate the relationship between employer and employee? And what you'll find in studying industrial relations is that how industrial relations works is really dependent on where you are. There are some places that have no law, and so the relationship between employer and employee is completely voluntary. And so, like in the United States, someone could just walk up to you and say, "You're fired, pack your box and go." Or you can have a legislative field like us here in Trinidad and Tobago, where if you have a grievance, you can take the grievance all the way up to an industrial court. So we need to understand how a legislative framework can affect the way we work. And of course, the outcome of all of this is this. This is what's important to us. Quality of life is determined by work. Can you afford to go to movie town every weekend? Where just passing by the concession, you lose $200 easy. Can you afford to go to dinner on date night? If you have a date night. You know, the way we work, the shape of work affects career opportunities. Are you a worker or do you have a career? Is there room for advancement? Is there any kind of longevity to your career? Is what you are doing today going to be there tomorrow? You know, do you stay in one place or do you have to hop around in your area of work? Work determines your economic resilience, and that's a kind of tack back to the public health crisis or to one of the many recessions we've had, like over the last since 2008. There have been about a cycle of about 8 recessions, clearly identifiable recessions. When there is an economic downturn, can you survive it? Work determines that. Work determines if you will have savings. Work determines if you will have a pension plan waiting for you. And so that's what social protection is about. Um, will you be able to take care of yourself down the road, either independently or as a consequence of personal pension and the activities of the state, NIS, and that kind of thing? Work determines the national well-being as well. And you can think about that in terms of, well, what's the unemployment figure like? How many people are unemployed? What are the opportunities for young people in the society? Um, what's the level of equity of income in the society? And the answers to questions like that doesn't just affect you as an individual, it actually affects the entire society. Because if the majority of people in the society are unhappy, then that's probably not a place that will be either too safe or where you would want to live. So I know I'm going pretty fast, but you can elaborate in the question section. And some of this stuff kind of dry anyway. So here we come to some of the courses you'll be doing when you come into labor studies. You'll be doing sociology, psychology. You'll be looking at gender studies and women in the workplace. These are two of my favorite courses because work is not just about your salary. What you will find out is that there are some things inside here that will affect your salary, and you have to understand them. You will have to do courses in economics because your salary is a part of an economic chain, and you may not be seeing the thing that is affecting your salary. You know, you have to do something like collective bargaining and grievance handling. And for those of you who are members of trade unions and are considering actually going up in elections for the executive of the trade union, you might want to look at the trade union administration courses that we have. One of the biggest things that we did in the curriculum review that we did recently was opening up a number of electives, as many as 6 electives in the bachelor degree, uh, 2 in the associate degree, none in the certificate, however. But what that means is that if you're doing a bachelor degree in labor studies in Cipriani, you can then pull courses from other areas that you feel are complementary to where you want to go in work, and that will help you be a little bit more marketable. So, like, never think of industrial relations as separate or labor studies as separate from occupational safety and health. For me, it's one and the same thing. If you have to work, you have to work in a place that's safe. So if you want to represent workers, you might want to actually combine trade unionism, industrial relations, and some occupational safety and health that my good friend Barry spoke about earlier. There's always the possibility of combining industrial relations and HRM. We have a pretty strong HRM program, and the number of electives that we have available to you will allow you to take in a good core of HR practice and combine it with your trade union practice as well. So the program is pretty flexible as it is designed right now. What we intend to do is to bring in some more areas. We want to expand the area of economics in particular, so that you can do a concentration in labor economics, and that's going to be coming on soon. And if even if you just want to sample from all of the other areas, you have the space to get a touch, a taste, a feel of everything with that whole area of labor studies and industrial relations. So what would you be learning? All of those subjects, all of that list of areas that we just had on the last slide, what does that mean? What will you be learning when you come in here? So work is still at the center of the whole thing, all right? What we'd be looking at is, what is the impact of wealth on the work relationship? Wealth and power, because they go together, and we can't pretend that what we're doing in work is not affected by the ability of those with wealth and power to decide what is right, what is wrong, what the rules are, and that sort of thing. We also need to understand that the practice, the shape of work is actually affected by history. Christopher Columbus bumping into a whole continent and discovering it. Oh, I didn't know this was there. Producing genocide of the Amerindians, and then, slavery and indentureship. So, and a lot of those colonial relationships continue to affect work today. The impact of culture, that's also going to affect work. What do we believe in? What do we feel is important? What do we feel isn't important? All right. And then we want to understand what's shaping the world of work. And undeniably, in the last few years, the biggest thing is COVID. How has COVID reshaped work? A lot of us are working from home and are only now beginning to understand, hey, working from home is no vacation. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I seem to be doing more working from home than I did at work. I want to go back to work so I can have a vacation. And then you have actual changes in the shape of work. So you're seeing a lot of people now being removed from the idea of of um, of career, and embracing something a little bit more flexible, a little bit more interchangeable, and sometimes not always by choice. And so you're seeing a growth in freelancing, a growth in what they call the gig economy, the sharing economy, where your involvement in work in any particular area of work may not last for very long, or you might be holding down multiple gigs at the same time. And so what is being said today is that people are actually looking less for job security and more for employment security. And so, like, that will log back to the idea of culture. Is culture changing? And as culture changes, does that change the nature, the shape, and the relationships of work. One of the big things coming down the pipeline in the process of globalization, of course, is the new areas of technology, nanotechnology, not computers, robotics, that type of thing. The, we're talking now about the fourth industrial revolution and how that is going to change the world as the Internet of Things take over. There was a time when we would tell the computer what to do. Now the computer, which is embedded in your Fitbit, which is embedded in your clothes, which is embedded in your refrigerator, it's starting to tell you what to do. So you can't stop walking until your Fitbit tells you, okay, you've burnt enough calories. And it literally is changing how work is conceived of as the technology is able to take over more and more of work. And of course, we want to look at how people are organizing themselves, how people are empowering themselves as the very nature of work is changing. And so, as we try to organize our society, we have to be aware of what are the opportunities in this brave new world that we're facing. What is best practice? What have other people done? What can we adopt and adapt, to improve our circumstances? And then, well, everything is better with Batman. So I just thought I'd put that there. Okay. So what's the Cipriani difference? Why would you want to come to Cipriani? Bottom line, values. Cipriani is not Arthur Lovejack or any other business school. Okay? Quite frankly, if you want to come to Cipriani just to be able to climb the professional ladder, I am prepared to take your money, but Cipriani is probably not the place for you. Because what we do is we infuse the values of labor, trade unionism, of cooperative studies, the working class institutions, the collectivism that lies at the heart of those two major areas that are in the name of our college through all of our practice. So you come to Cipriani to learn the importance of social justice, because the weird thing is that you getting advancement at the expense of other people creates problems, not just for the other people, but for the whole society. It comes back around. And so we try to infuse the idea of social responsibility as well. We're not looking for development of the individual alone in isolation. We're looking for the development of the society as a whole. We're looking at access, because even now, even today, we still have sections of our society, of our working class, who, despite GATE, have not had the access to tertiary education. And even if it's just tertiary education to satisfy a personal ambition, then that's what we're giving to people, because the biggest indicator of a child getting a degree is the parent with a degree. When we take that 30 to 40-year-old into Cipriani and they walk out with a degree, it not only changes their career opportunities, it not only changes their view of the world, but it changes the next generation as well, and probably the generation to follow. And quite frankly, it is the fact that Cipriani is still one of the most affordable tertiary education institutions, if not the most affordable in the country. A lot of people in this country would not have tertiary certification today. And of course, that is about empowerment. What we are about is empowering the working people, empowering the people who have traditionally been kind of like left out of the opportunity structure. We're helping them create their own conditions of success, to control the outcomes of their lives. And so coming to Cipriani is not just about getting an education. Coming to Cipriani is about getting into the mission of making your life and the society a better place. So the real question that you face when you come into labor studies, the real question that I will pose to you, that all the other lecturers in my department will pose to you, is what kind of society do you want to live in? Because that's what we are gearing you up for. That's what we are trying to build in a Cipriani graduate, not just somebody who is able to have a better life for themselves, but somebody that recognizes that in empowering themselves to do that, they are also required through the working class institutions like trade unions and cooperatives, through any other avenue of collective endeavor, they are being asked, how do we make our society better? And that's what we want you to come to Cipriani for. That's what I want you to come to labor studies for. That's what I want you to come do industrial relations for. And finally, don't forget, Rona's still outside there. All right, COVID is still outside there. Do what you gotta do to be safe. And I think that's the end of the presentation. Let me stop sharing now. And I think we go on to our question and answer. Of course, I have no problems if you have no questions. I'm try to beat the audience into submission, but I see an awful lot of questions. Apparently, people are unaware that there are beers in a refrigerator somewhere on a Friday waiting to be had. Okay, so let's see. Question one. I already have a master's. I'm not interested in doing another degree, neither am I interested in any lengthy period of study. Do you all offer any short specialized programs in IR? And the answer is yes, we do. Right now, like I said, we adapt the 40-hour program format for different kinds of delivery. Right now, we are delivering two industrial relations programs online, and we're delivering them over the course of 5 weeks with two sessions a week. We have much in like this arrangement. We have a Google Meet session twice per week, and it's backed up by a Google Classroom where resource materials are put in place for the students to access, where we will put learning activities to help you interact with the material, and we have the chat forums where you can ask questions of the other students or you can ask questions of the lecturers. So we put that out to for public viewing. If you're in an institution, an organization that has an interest in doing a short course in industrial relations, you can actually call us up and we can design that specifically for you. In some instances, I've actually gone down to trade unions and essentially delivered the 40-hour program over a 2-week period at the union hall. And we are prepared to do the same thing for organizations as well, for other types of organizations. All right, I hope that answered your question. If not, you can always take my contact information later and we can talk about that a little bit more. I am an executive in a growing local company. None of the other executives are subject matter experts in industrial relations. Does the Department of Labor offer any consultancy services to stakeholders? All right, we haven't actually had a policy of open consultancy, but what we are doing in terms of building our specialized training in industrial relations is that we are attaching an aftercare package to the training, where we are willing to remain in contact with organizations and to help answer any questions that you can have on industrial relations. Much as what we're doing in the two programs I spoke about, students bring their issues, and all we ask of them is that give us a head start so that we can actually do a little bit of research and bring it back. So again, while we haven't done that in the past, there's nothing that says that we can't look at doing it up front, or we can't combine a training program with a bit of consultancy as well. That's another one that I would suggest. Take some contact information and call us, and we see what we can do. All right. Question three. My company, and I'm noticing that there's a trend here, is a company thing. Yeah, my company is interested in receiving customized programs and training for our specific need. Is this possible? And the short answer is hell yeah. Okay, you sent us a list of your needs, and I won't even say that that's limited to industrial relations. It will involve industrial relations, but as I said, where industrial relations is connected integrally to occupational safety and health, and where we are actually looking at combining the various areas into into a single specialized training activities. So yeah, if you want something, we have a specialized training department and coordinator. If you want to come through me, you can. If you want to just call through the PBX, you can get Miss Melissa Bridgewater and enter that way. But yes, we are prepared to do specialized training specifically for you, either at your location or ours. And usually we have like a 2 day kind of program, but it can be more intensive than that if you like, or less. I'm interested in doing the industrial relations practitioner's course. Can I speak with a, well, I'm the lecturer, I'm a lecturer, or representative more privately? Yes, you can. And I will give I saw Barry giving his number. I'll give my number as well at the end of the program, and you can call me up, hopefully um, after the program before I start drinking my beers. Five, do the courses, programs in labor studies set a foundation for someone to branch out into pursuing a degree in law? Um, it tends to go in the other direction where somebody with a degree in law comes to do industrial relations and labor studies. And that's largely because the law program don't really prepare you to as an attorney to operate in the industrial court. And so what you find is that you'll need to learn industrial relations to be able to operate in that field. It's a little less um, um, common to see somebody come into industrial relations and then go on to law, but the same relationship will exist. If you start with industrial relations, I actually had a student who did that. If you start with industrial relations and go into law, then you have the same thing, the ability to practice both law and labor law, representing the industrial court as well. So it's not going to be something that is untoward or wasted. Um, with all the changes to the work environment, is there still a role for industrial relations, and how can it help someone working from home? That's a thesis. All right, that's a research, that is a PhD research question right there. Here's the thing, the short answer to that is that the world of work has changed um, so many times in Western civilization, the history of Western civilization. It was based on slave labor at one point in time. Then it became based on indentureship that looked very much like slave labor at another point in time. Then technology started occurring. Steam, water. Eventually, you had quantum changes with electricity being added, and so that now then you had the computer mass production, and now we're talking about a fourth revolutionary change in the world of work. And the difficult part about that fourth change is that many parts of the world haven't even gone through the second change, electricity. There's still parts of this country where electricity isn't dependable, and where Wi-Fi isn't dependable as well. I'm teaching here, and from time to time, and I drop off the class. So the class is sitting there wondering. But the point is that once you have work, you will have a relationship between an employer and an employee. The definitions may change, but the fact is that there is going to be a relationship. And if there is that relationship, then there is room for someone to represent either side of the employment relationship. All right. And it is going to become a different game. Maybe what you will find is that in the future, representing, let's say, representing workers will become more political in nature. It will become more focused on changing legislation. Um, and that kind of, you know, tacks on to the idea of working from home. You know, if you are working from home, then has that fundamentally changed the relationship, the employment relationship? Well, as I said earlier, you know, I don't like it because I sit here working and then I see something on the floor. I have to pick up a mop and go clean the floor. If I was at work, I wouldn't see that until Saturday or Sunday. Um, Electricity, you know, I'm burning electricity more because I'm home and I'm working from home. I've gone through my plan to the point where I actually have to get an unlimited plan. So here's a question: who's responsible for those kinds of bills? If I'm at work, my boss pays the light bill, he pays the phone bill. I'm home, is that my responsibility? What if I trip and fall down my stairwell? Do I have any kind of compensation due? Is my employer liable at all for me if that happens? You know, what are my hours of work? Because quite frankly, my hours of work, I think you just call it hours. It, Thank God, nothing else. I mean, people are calling me 9 o'clock at night and look at me now. What time is it? 6:37, and I'm working. You know, so when people start to ask these questions, there is going to be a need for someone to represent the partners on either side in what is this new relationship of work. And the relationship of work is never limited to just the employer and the employee. The rest of society is a part of the relationship as well. So there will be representation done elsewhere, as I said, for example, in courts or in legislation. So, yeah, there will always be a need for industrial relations once there is a relationship of work. As a young person just out of school, I can remember that. Well, actually, no, I can't. Out of school, I'm thinking about my career options, but a trade unionist or IR are not even on my list. How can this program assist me to build my career? Well, as I just said, there will always be a need for industrial relations, and so what you're seeing, there was this weird thing that happened in corporate Trinidad where we had industrial relations departments, and suddenly HR took off, and the IR departments disappeared, and you started having HR departments. And then a little while later, what started happening is that these people were losing in court. So as I said before, they had to come back now and rehire industrial relations experts, some of whom play on both sides of the field. Today they're representing an employer, tomorrow they're representing a worker, or they have to acquire industrial relations expertise themselves. So even if you want to climb the managerial ladder, industrial relations is something that you should know. Even if you're supervising people, industrial relations is still something that you should know. All right. If you can't understand the basic principles of good industrial relations, if you don't understand the processes of dealing with a grievance or the processes of involved in taking disciplinary action, then you are going to end up in the industrial court in this country quick, fast, and in a hurry, and probably lose some money. So it doesn't make a difference what part of the employment equation you're on. Employment relationships mean that you must understand industrial relations. Why? Because there's an Industrial Relations Act in this country, which means it's governed. So yeah, do some IR. Um, are there practical elements to the IR program? Would I get to visit visit the industrial court or go to real negotiations? Yes. Well, increasingly we are doing it at the certificate level, but we generally do the industrial court visit and hit the recognition board at the same time in the associate degree and therefore in the bachelor degree as well. So you get to meet go sit in the court and see what's happening. And I mean, there's nothing like seeing that, man. It, nothing on television prepares you for sitting in the industrial court, or quite frankly, for any court in Trinidad and Tobago. Um, and it gives you a hands-on kind of feel for what that experience is like. But the other thing is that um, the all of our programs are practice oriented, all of them. And so the people we put in class, I mean, I am the most theoretical lecturer in the labor studies department. The people we put to teach you are people in the trenches or who have retired from the trenches or who are sitting in the industrial court as judges teaching the practice. So you might be in a classroom, but you will be getting live examples of what the practice is like. Um, and generally speaking, while the profile of Cipriani Labor College is not the highest in the country, when you get into people who hire our students, you hear one thing. Cipriani students hit the ground running. UWI students, any other tertiary institution students, they don't seem to be practice ready when they come into the field. And that's because of the type of lecturers we have and the type of teaching we do in our departments, not just in labor studies, all the rest. Yeah, right, I did that. Oh, and when you go out on internship, yeah, some of the places that take our students on internship, well, which will be after COVID, of course, um, actually do take our students, our interns into negotiation. So there's a big chance that that will be open to you as well. Can I represent in court with a degree in labor studies? Which court is that? If it's the industrial court, yes, you can. Um, you can represent in the industrial court. The industrial court only looks for representatives. It does not ask for a lawyer, an attorney at law to represent. Um, um, I am an executive officer of a fairly newly formed union. I did a dip in IR and I am now going to do labor studies. Is doing labor studies equivalent to labor law? No, it's not. Um, if you're doing labor law in another tertiary institution, then 2/3 of the program I expect will be law-based program. Um, but what you will have is a foundation in employment law. Uh, Sorry, Roger Pierre. Okay, I'll take that a little bit. Yeah, what you will have is a foundation in law in across at least two subjects in the program. There's the opportunity to use an elective to get a third course in the program. But what's important in Cipriani is that you will learn at an in-depth level the processes of collective bargaining, the processes of grievance handling, and the processes of disciplinary action, which are all parts of the things that you will need to know to represent effectively in the industrial court. So it's not going to be a degree in labor law, but if you're representing workers, you really can beat it. And let me see. Can I, yeah, 11. Would you say that IR is a subset of HR? Hell no. IR is IR. Industrial relations is industrial relations. It's industrial relations came before human relations. Industrial relations in this country has an Industrial Relations Act. I'm not going to say one is more important than the other, but I am going to say if you're representing people in this country and it comes down to legal action that has to go through the industrial court, you need an industrial relations expert and not a human relations manager. And what you're seeing increasingly is that people with human relations qualification are coming to Cipriani, to the diploma program, to learn IR because they're recognizing that they have to close that gap. All right. So actually, the person who learns industrial relations has the easier bargain of the two, given the fact that we're very a legislated environment. But no, one is not a subset of the other. Let me see. What do you say? Okay. And then there's a picture of a question. Would you say that IR, oh, that's that one, okay. Nicole Allen, with all of the courses offered under labor studies, when will we get a timetable? I'm expecting that we will finish rationalizing all of the clashes and stuff over the weekend. And so I expect to see the final version over the weekend. Once we get it, we will put it out to to all of the students. So by Tuesday, you should know what the final timetable is. We have a draft timetable. It's probably 90% fixed, but yeah, a little bit still needs to be done. And Trini one to the bone. Okay. As an HR study, would the changes now affect the approach of HR, or will IR be a much needed requirement? And I think I kind of answered that, yeah, in work relations. If so, how would you suggest I combine the two areas? Um, okay, if you have a degree in HR already, I would say come to Cipriani and do the diploma because the diploma is geared towards the higher level practice of industrial relations. It assumes that you're going to be someone very active in the field. It assumes that you're probably operating at a kind of supervisory manager level in whatever organization that you're using, that you're operating in. And whether you are the one going into the industrial court or not, it's going to give you a solid understanding of industrial relations in the workplace. And like I said, if you are supervising or if you are a manager, whether you are the one, you are in the HR department or the IR department or not, you need to know some industrial relations because it's the people who don't know who create the problems for the people who then have to go to court to clean it up. So I would suggest that um, anyone who is in management should come and you either do the certificate in industrial relations or you do the diploma in industrial relations, or you call as an organization you call and set up a 40-hour program which can give you a kind of crash understanding of what good industrial relations practice is. And that's what we teach. Yeah? We teach good industrial relations practice. And that means if you're a trade union or you're a manager, you have the same rules. Your rules are based on social justice, on fairness. And once we're operating like that, maybe we will start to have less cause to go to the industrial court. Yeah, so that's what I would suggest. And or if your company isn't looking for specialized training, then just look out for when we put another program up for the general public and come in. I know we'd be happy to see you. Yeah, that's about it. I see by the sign on the phone there that there are no other questions. I hope this has been informative for you. I hope that that I haven't bored you to tears. Uh, Come to Cipriani, you will meet some of the best lecturers you will find in the tertiary institutions of this country. In my college, you will meet some of the brightest individuals in my college. I have taught in several institutions, tutored in UE. I have met the brightest people in the classrooms of Cipriani College, you know. It and one of the loveliest dynamics is that you see that diploma class, but it happens in certificate as well. But in that diploma class, you have HR practitioners sitting down next to trade unionists and an industrial court judge teaching. It gets live. It really gets live, and you won't learn better than in an environment like that. So it was nice being here. Thank you so much for spending time with Cipriani. I look forward to seeing you in the new semester. I know I almost forgot. You can get me at 4729024. That's my mobile. Or you can try to get through to the college and people will route you to me. Thank you very much and